Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 Report, episode 385. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the JP8 Report. Thank you all very much for tuning in. And wow, possible cause in 12 to 14 alarm warehouse fire. Wow, in New Jersey. Wow. They said it was leaves in the electrical system. Wow. Okay, cool. Welcome. No, that's not cool, but welcome to the JPA Report, episode 385. Thank y'all very much for tuning in. It's already a busy day. I don't think I'm going to get through all this, but we'll see. We will see. Let me click that right there. All right. And then let's see where we're going. Before we get started, I had two pieces of breaking news. Rudy Giuliani, he's in a hospital right now, and they said he has pneumonia, but he's recovering from pneumonia. And he got pneumonia because on 9/11 he stayed in the environment too long and sucked in all those cancerous chemicals, and not that he has cancer. I'm talking about the chemicals in the air and stuff to destroy lots of people's respiratory systems, and he was one of them, and made him susceptible to getting pneumonia and having a hard time fighting it off. But he is fighting it off, so that's good. And then the next one is GameStop. GameStop put a bid in today for $56 billion to buy eBay because the news coming out of GameStop is they want to create an environment that can compete with Amazon. That's what they said. So GameStop wants to buy eBay for $56 billion, and Rudy Giuliani is in a hospital, and they said he has pneumonia, but he's recovering. All right. So let's get on to the rest of this. Check it out, the chat. Y'all are welcome to join the chat. We got one person in there right now. It's a good friend of mine, Covite for life. Awesome guy. We got to go to a meet and greet this weekend up in Gatesville, Texas, to meet some Republican runoff candidates. Jump in there, talk with them, talk with me. I will answer you if you chat, and then hit the like button to like the episode that we're doing right now, and then also click the follow button. We are at 149 followers. We got the 149th today. Let's get the 150th today. Let's see. Let's get someone that'll say, yes, we like the JPA report. Let's do it. But no, seriously, please do so, okay? And then everyone, welcome, okay? So America 250. I got two items for America 250. They came about for, and now I got an email from Amazon. I mentioned Amazon, I get an email from Amazon. Wow. We got two items for the 4th of May for Rhode Island, for the May 4th, 1776. Rhode Island formally renounces all allegiance to King George III. They were the first state or colony to do so. And then that is very historic. I even saw that in the paper this morning. And then general orders. So this is from New York City with General Washington's general staff. The weather proving wet and cold. The regiments did not encamp yesterday. Are to remain at present quarters until Monday morning, when they are to march and encamp upon the ground assigned them. The undernamed officers are appointed by the general to oversee the works laid out by the engineer, Captain Chapman of Colonel Prescott's regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Cole of Colonel Weiss's regiment, Lieutenant Fish of Colonel Leonard's regiment, and Lieutenant Goodall from Colonel Reed's regiment. The colonels or commanding officers of regiments are to be regular and obliging their quartermasters consistently to attend to the cleaning of streets of their encampment, uh, and especially to the digging and fixing the necessities that would be latrines in the place appointed for that purpose, which are every morning to be lightly covered with fresh earth, and at stated times filled up, and new ones dug, to the end of the obnoxious and wholesome smells be prevented from infecting the camp. The quartermasters are to carefully see all filth and carrion in or near their encampments immediately buried. The Continental Congress has been pleased to appoint William Palfrey, Esquire, to be Paymaster General of the Army of the United Colonies. He is to be respected and obeyed as such. Colonel Parsons and Colonel Huntington's regiments are to be mustered in front of their encampment upon Tuesday morning next. They are to be prepared to their rolls accordingly. The Master General will attend at 8 o'clock. William Winslow, soldier in Captain Johnson's company in Colonel McDougall's regiment, tried at a late court-martial whereof Colonel Baldwin was president for desertion, is acquitted by the court. General orders the prisoner to be released from his confinement and wishes he could add his probation of all the proceedings of the court-martial. Wow. So someone accused him of being a deserter, but they found him not guilty. Wow. Okay, so the third paragraph in there was talking about keeping the fobs or the camps of forts all clean to prevent the spread of the disease. There was, because if you look at the appropriate way they made latrines back then, it was all about keeping soldiers healthy so they could fight. All right, pretty cool. They teach you that in the army, in my army, even how to dig a latrine, the proper way of digging a latrine, which was pretty cool. All right, so next stop before we get into the JP8 report is the armament shop. Whether you're looking for your first firearm, upgrading your setup, or need expert service, Jason at the Armament Shop is Copper's Cove's premier source of all things shooting. Browse our wide selection of pistols, rifles, and shotguns, backed up by top-tier gunsmithing for repairs, along with reloading supplies and professional cleaning to keep your firearm in peak condition. Need a transfer? We make FFL's transfers fast, easy, and affordable. Need your CHL? Jason can handle those classes. He has over 3 decades of experience. Visit the Armament Shop today at 115A West Avenue D in Copper's Cove, or call or text at 254-560-2053, as you were, 254-560-2023. I almost gave the wrong phone number. Or you can reach them on the web at www.armamentshop.com. That's www.armamentshop.com. The Armament Shop, your safety, our priority. All right. How's that? All right. I hope everyone's doing good. Let's get rolling. We have the Iran update. This is day 27 of Operation This is day 27 of the ceasefire. That's kind of sort of a ceasefire. We will see, because I'm going to tell you in just a second. Iran has fired 4 missiles. It says Iran fired missiles, then warning shot. Then the U.S. said it never happened. It never happened. No U.S. ships were engaged at all by Iranian military at all. IRGCs just lying through their teeth. 49 vessels were turned back. Uh, the U.S. escorts 2 U.S. flagged vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran threatens the U.S. with breach if U.S. escorts anything in um, Operation Freedom something. I forgot what I should have wrote it down. Marco Rubio is going to visit Italy with concerns about NATO. Iran gave the U.S. a 14-point plan, which hardly anyone has seen it. There's been a couple examples put out about it. I haven't been able to find it yet on the web. German foreign minister told the Iranian foreign minister to open the Strait of Hormuz peacefully. The IDF captures Hezbollah weapons cache, which included anti-tank missiles. And then 6 Iranian boats were sunk by the U.S. Navy. 4 missiles were fired at the United Arab Emirates. 3 of them were shot down, and then one splashed at sea, I think it was. But then there's reports of a building on fire from an impact from a missile inside of the United Arab Emirates. Remember, the UAE left OPEC on Friday, so they're like an independent, slightly allied country with the United States. And then a South Korean cargo ship, his engine compartment is on fire, and they said the cause of the fire is unknown at this time. All right. So, and also, the president put this out just a second ago. Hold on just a second. Where is it? I should just go straight to True Social. You know what? How about that? Hold on just a second here. Give me a second. I want to go straight to. Okay, so, oh my goodness, man, the president is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna put this up close to the camera so y'all can see this. Comparing the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy against the Iranian Navy. If y'all can see that. Okay, what it says is Navy 100% operational. Iran Navy destroyed. U.S. Air Force 100% operational. Iranian Air Force destroyed. Missile defense for the U.S. 100% operational. The air defense for Iran destroyed. USA's leader has a picture of Donald J. Trump, and then Iran's leader dead. Okay, I know. Hey, that's how it goes. Let's see. Where is that? What is it? Nope. 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 Okay, it was supposed to be on True Social, and I can't find it. Let me see if there was an update. Nope. Okay, go back. I'm talking to myself now. Well, kind of. So the president said, Trump vows Iran will be blown off the face of the earth if they intervene with Project Freedom. It says President Donald Trump says Iran will be blown off the face of the earth if they attack U.S. vessels carrying out Project Reform. Trump made the comment during an interview on Fox News' Trey Yingst on Monday, which is today, adding that he believes Iran has become much more malleable in the peace negotiations. The president also emphasized that U.S. military buildup in the region is continuing. We have more weapons and ammunition and a much higher grade than we had before. Trump said, "We have the best equipment. We have stuff all over the world. We have bases all over the world. We are stocked up with equipment. We can use all that stuff, and we will if need be." All right. All right. So let me back out and get on with the rest of it. Hey, our president means business, and that's the way it is, right? All right, there we go. All right, so meanwhile, back. And then to cap things off, at 9:30, I wrote down the oil stuff. Is at 9:30 Central, Brent crude oil was trading at 110 at $110.62 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate was 102 and $102.30 a barrel. In the stock exchange, the Dow Jones was at 49,417.24. It was down 82.03. Now, those are from 2.5 hours ago. I should have updated that because I know they fluctuate a little bit more. All right, go check it out. All right. So, first thing is just I can't find the news on it, but evidently 2 U.S. service members are missing in southwestern Morocco after a military exercise they had. There's a multinational military exercise that they had just finished up, and they were cliff climbing, and they disappeared. And that's all I heard. I haven't heard anything on the if they're male, female, their ranks, what branch of service they were, where they're from. It just says they're unaccounted for. All right. So that is what's going on there with that. And then Spirit Airlines, if you're living under a rock and you haven't known and you got tickets on Spirit Airlines, you might want to make that phone call because they completely shuttered all operations this weekend. I think Saturday night, so they're no longer a functioning airline. What should have happened a couple years ago during the Biden administration, they should have approved the merger between JetBlue and Spirit Airlines. But hindsight's 2020, and you can't cry over spilled milk. They're gone. They're a defunct airline now, just like Eastern Airlines was back in the 80s. They just disappeared and was eventually were replaced. All right. We already talked about that. That article was about how Iran wants to end up at the bottom of the Strait of Hormuz because they want to threaten U.S. warships. All right, so where are we at? We're at 12:17. All right, so don't forget to like the podcast and click that follow button if you're not already a follower. I talked about this morning. I want to do it again. It's about the ATF or the ATFE. The president is reforming the mission scope of the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosive Agency. And it needs to be transitioned back into just an agency that protects the public safety. Okay? So what it truly was at the beginning was a taxation unit that went after alcohol runners and firearms people. Was it alcohol, tobacco? So alcohol and tobacco, smoke and alcohol. Okay. ATF was started in 1972. So the Justice Department and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has announced plans to repeal or revise more than 30 federal gun regulations, completing a 50-year pendulum swinging back to the Second Amendment's original, resulting in praise from one of the country's longest-standing gun rights advocates. This is This is why, the reason why I'm doing this, because the next article deals with Rhode Island and the next article deals with Virginia. Okay? This is why America elected Donald Trump. Freedom. ATF has no business making up rules. That's what Congress does. Blanche, Dylan, and Cicada are all setting the right course. NRA board member and retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Willis K. Lee told the Just the News after the DOJ and ATF made the announcement last week. The shift is not just another regulatory rollback. It is culminating chapter in a half-century arc that began with the ATF's transformation from a Treasury Tax Enforcement Bureau, pre-1972, that it was closely whiskey and tobacco focused, with the aggressive regulatory federal agency became after the 1968 Gun Control Act, which a lot of that was deemed unconstitutional, and especially after moved from within Treasury Department to the Justice Department after 9/11. That was with the reorganization of government with the Homeland Security Agency. Among the new proposed changes is one to scrap the 2024 Biden White House rule that expanded background check requirements for gun sales at shows and other non-store venues. Last time I bought a weapon at a gun show, I did have to do a background check. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche described the package as the most comprehensive regulatory overhaul in the history of the ATF, saying it would cut red tape and restore clarity to law-abiding gun owners without weakening enforcement. For too long, regulations are written without real understanding how firearm businesses operate, like the armament shop, how lawful gun owners handle their firearms, like me, or what truly improves public safety, Blanche also said. Gun control activists have criticized the moves as potentially dangerous. 4 days after the nation watched gunfire break out at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the Trump administration's answer is to gut common sense gun safety laws and sabotage the only federal agency dedicated to keeping guns out of criminals' hands. That was John Fairblot, president of Everytown for Gun Safety, in a statement that was obtained by Associated Press. These actions follow reviews during the Trump's first term on Second Amendment issues. During that term, that was from 2017 to 2021. During that term, Trump took several actions that gun rights advocates praised as strengthening Second Amendment protections, including appointing 3 conservative Supreme Court justices. That would be Neil Gorsuch, Brian Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, whose originalist judicial philosophies were expected to safeguard individual firearm ownership rights. Trump also signed the Fixed NICS Act, that's the National Instant Check System, into law in 2018 as part of a larger spending bill to improve the accuracy and completeness of the federal background check system by requiring better reporting from government agencies. However, he also viewed negatively of many Second Amendment supporters, such as directing the ATF in 2018 to issue regulation effectively banning bump stocks following the Las Vegas shooting, which took effect in 2019 and restricted a popular rifle accessory. That is in addition to your lower receiver, which allows you to recoil like a bounce and makes it like a machine gun. Okay. However, let's see. Publicly endorsing an increase in minimum purchasing age from 18 to 21. no one's perfect. You got to have good advisors and stuff. But so the ATF is going to go back to its original intent of just firearm safety and making sure that the NICS is the way it should be, totally, right? And enforcing alcohol and tobacco. I really don't think the ATF should even exist anymore. They can fold those duties into the FBI. The days of alcohol, gun running, not gun running, but alcohol with the moonshine steals and stuff from pre-prohibition are all over with, right? And the FBI has the agents available where they can actually do these investigations. You can do it into maybe the U.S. Marshals, but probably the FBI. All right. Thought y'all would like to hear that by the ATF. I thought it was pretty neat when I saw it this morning. Excuse me. All right. Next, this is why I wanted to read that, because this next article, and I didn't even preview this morning. I just told y'all I was going to talk about it. And as we get going on here, don't forget to press that like button. That's a thumbs up button. And then click that follow button if you're not already a follower. All right. And then do some chatting in here. I've only got one chatter. So this is from John Cumberland from Fox News talking about what Rhode Island is about to do with firearms. Okay. So Rhode Island, they tried a firearms bill last year and it got overturned. Okay. They're at it again this year. It's probably overturned, but what it says, like here in this article, they're trying to bleed the gun rights nonprofits, the organizations out there. They're trying to bleed them out of their money so they can finally just give up, and these government agencies can counteract the Constitution and then exact their will on the American people. So what Rhode Island is doing. Says Rhode Island lawmakers are back at it, pushing a sweeping gun ban that should set off alarm bells far beyond the ocean state. Their latest proposal is called SB 2710, would outlaw the possession of some of the most commonly owned firearms in America, targeting semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns that millions of law-abiding citizens rely on for self-defense, sport, and tradition. That makes this proposal especially alarming is not just what it bans, is how it leaves enforcement hanging in the air. The bill is conspicuously silent on how the state intends to run with current owned firearms that would suddenly become illegal overnight. The silence is not reassuring. It opens the door to exactly the kind of heavy-handed enforcement Americans have long rejected. The forced surrender or even door-to-door confiscation of legally acquired property. For those trying to comply with forced confiscation, the so-called sales option is no option at all. Lawful owners would be forced to sell their firearms to federal licensed dealers or qualified out-of-state buyers by the end of the year, triggering a rushed liquidation that will inevitably drive down prices. If gun owners comply with this law, they would sell their property at substantial loss, and if they want to rearm after the law is struck down, they would end up paying twice for a gun they already own. In plain terms, the government would be engineering a fire sale of a constitutional conduct, stripping citizens of not only their rights but also their property values as well. And if the potential of a forcible confiscation were not enough, Rhode Island lawmakers are also advancing schemes to require gun owners to carry million liability insurance policies. This has nothing to do with safety and everything to do with cost. It's a calculated effort to price ordinary Americans out of exercising a constitutional right, turning the Second Amendment into a luxury good reserved for those who can only afford to comply. Right? They're pricing you out of your home. It's our right to right and bear arms, and shall not be. Oh man, I'm losing. I can't really talk today. Okay, it's all right. It's all right. I can't. I pull out my constitution. Hold on, just a second here. Who is it, the government, to tell us we can or cannot have a particular weapon? Because I'm telling the truth. Whether it be a pistol or a rifle, a compound bow, there's nothing in the Constitution that says we can't have, we are guaranteed that right to keep and bear arms. That it shall not be infringed upon. Okay, that's what I was looking for. That is our right. Like I said last week, the object, the purpose, and the intent of the Constitution is not to protect the government from us. It's to protect us from the government. That's full stop. There's nothing more to it. Everything in that Constitution is to protect us from the government. This does not do that. This is stripping the ability of us to protect our rights from an over-oppressive government, like what's trying to take shape right now with all the socialists and communists in our society. And right now it's all political, but we have to protect ourselves to make sure we're not run roughshod over, and protect our families and our country and our states. All right. So it says here, we've seen this playbook before. Okay, I'm getting better now. I don't know what's going on with my throat. Last year, Rhode Island banned the manufacture, sale, and purchase of these firearms, but allowed owners to previously acquire them to keep them. Now legislators want to finish the job, give gun control advocates an inch, and they'll take a mile, targeting commerce in firearms today and firearms already in your safe tomorrow. As detailed in reports from the NRA, including Rhode Island Senate Judiciary attack on the Second Amendment and extreme gun bill package, this coordinated push threatens every ocean state owner and sets a precedent that could cripple outward nationwide. A slippery slope is unmistakable, and it will spread and will do ill-conceived gun control in other states that ignore the Constitution. Anti-gun politicians understand they may lose someday in court, which they will. It was, after all, sweeping gun bans on handguns in D.C. and Chicago that ushered in the Supreme Court's Second Amendment resistance, and reasoning of those cases applied equally well to common semi-automatic long gun Americans choose for defensive purposes. We don't all prefer to have flintlock musket rifles anymore. They take 30 seconds to a minute to reload. We would like to properly defend ourselves. But for firearm prohibitors, the courtroom losses is beside the point. The process itself, passing law, enforcing it until it's struck down, and forcing taxpayers to foot the legal bill is the strategy. It drains resources from their opponents, chills lawful conduct, and advances their agenda by attrition. It also diverts attention from an endless succession of lesser infringements that seek the death of the Second Amendment by 1,000 cuts. The Second Amendment does not change when you cross a state border. The right to defend oneself and one's family is not dependent on a particular zip code, income level, or shifting political winds in a state legislature. Meanwhile, the real-world impacts fails on the very people whose gun ownership poses no threat to public safety. Responsible gun owners who follow the law, safeguard their firearms, and take seriously their duty to protect themselves and their families. Disarming them does nothing to stop violent criminals who, by definition, do not comply with gun laws. It simply leaves good people more vulnerable. The Second Amendment does not change when you cross a state border. The right to defend oneself and one's family is not dependent on a particular zip code, income level, or shifting political winds in the state legislature. Yes, yet that is exactly what Rhode Island lawmakers are trying to impose, a patchwork of rights where some Americans are treated as less deserving than others. Cases like these demand the Supreme Court settle them once and for all, as in Bruin and Heller. Until then, state capitals remain the battleground, where Second Amendment rights hang by a thread. Rhode Island may be small, but the implications of this legislation are anything but. This is the test case of how far lawmakers can go in dismantling a fundamental right and how much Americans are willing to tolerate before pushing back. The 2026 midterms are coming, and every voter in every state must remember which lawmakers treat the Second Amendment as an optional and hold them accountable at the ballot box this November. Except for we can't get enough people to go out and vote. That's the problem. Okay? So take that as you may. Why am I putting stuff here and everywhere? Okay. What do y'all think about that? Because just about 3 weeks ago, Abigail Spanberger did a complete gun control package in the Commonwealth of Virginia's legislature, and now they're doing the same thing over in Rhode Island. What state's next? When is the federal courts going to step in and say, stop this nonsense? It's like playing whack-a-mole. We kill that gun control right here, all of a sudden prayer, and it's the same argument. Bam, you hit it. It comes up here, you kill it. Man, it just goes from one state to another, and all like I said, they're just trying to drain the resources of these gun rights advocates until we just say, we give. And we got people who won't go vote. My vote don't count. Yeah. Well, then they complain. They're taking my guns away. Well, did you go vote? No. Well, why didn't you? Because my vote don't count. I bet it would have counted now. You know, there was an election here. We had municipal elections on Saturday, right? We had a school bond in little bitty old Evant, Texas. It's the far west corner of Coryell County. They had the Evant ISD had a school bond. The school bond passed. I think it was like a $2.5 million school bond. It passed by 3 votes. It passed 130 to 127. So when people say every vote counts, it sure does, because if 3 less people wouldn't have voted, it would have been a tie, or it would have, the noes would have beat the yeses, right? And I don't know what their school bond was over, but I just know for a fact it passed by 3 votes only. All right. So talking about Spanberger still, the Secretary General, hold on, President just put something on True Social. That's the one I was looking for. All right. Before we continue on with this, I wanted to read this. This is from the president. I just saw an excerpt on it, okay? Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations with the respect to the ship movement Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down several small boats, or as they like to call them, fast boats. It's all they have left. Other than the South Korean ship, there has been at this moment no damage going through the strait. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane will have a news conference tomorrow morning. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And that just came out on True Social. All right. It said 12:16. Well, it came out 25 minutes ago. All right. Let's get back to the show. All right. So if that's the case, tomorrow morning I might roll the show over on the JP's morning brief so we can see some of the news conference. All right. So yeah. So get back to Spanberger. Spanberger a few weeks ago rolled out a complete package of anti-gun measures. I mean, stuff that is like, oh my goodness, is this even Virginia anymore? That's how bad it is, right? From types of weapons you can own to reduced capacity magazines to what kind of people can actually own weapons and stuff. And then when it got to her, she added more strict measures and then sent it back to the legislature for them to approve it, and then she would sign it. Really, that's Abigail Spanberger. So it's no difference in it just rolling over to Rhode Island. So what's next? Is it going to go to Delaware, or is it going to go to Connecticut, or is it going to go to Massachusetts? I mean, where is it going to go? Colorado, California? And what do they want to do? Tear up the Constitution or take a Sharpie and mark out the Second Amendment? That's probably what their intent to do is. But while all this was going on, she rolled out a whole slew of new taxes for the people in Virginia, which if there was one person living in Virginia, it would be her, because everybody else should move out. So this is her next idea. I hope you're sitting down, because this is crazy. Virginia Governor, or the Secretary General, Abigail Spanberger, left the door open for imposing taxes on services like gym memberships, digital subscriptions, and dog grooming when asked about the possibility during a recent interview. I think every idea, as long as it's reasonable, makes some amount of sense, should be discussed. I think there are very worthy conversations to be had about the revenue generation looks like in the future as our economy changes in so many ways. The comment comes as Spanberger tries to leave the door open to exploring new sources of revenue for Virginia, while always fending off accusations from the White House that have painted her into a tax-happy Democrat. So sad. She's adding so many taxes: a food and beverage tax, a digital services tax, utilities tax, and more. People are leaving that would never have even thought of doing so. Trump said he said that on True Social about a month ago. This went from a thriving, powerful place to a commonwealth run by a person that has no concept of low taxes and economic strength. The bills were up. The criticism stands from a handful of bills introduced to Virginia that, if implemented, would extend taxes, like I'm telling you, storage facilities, counseling, dry cleaning, vehicle repair, website design, data storage, and digital subscription storage. These bills were first introduced by lawmakers during a tenure of Spanberger's predecessor, Glenn Youngkin. Never reached the floor of the General Assembly for a vote before the end of the legislature session on March 14th. Notably, apart from a bill that will raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour from by 2028, Spanberger has yet to sign off on any state-based increases, a record she believes Trump is misrepresenting. The array of taxes that the president asserts move forward in Virginia is sort of ridiculous. She said ludicrous, Spanberger said. But Spanberger also noted that she could revisit the raised revenue in shifting industries and that have changed the tax calculus. You used to buy a DVD. There used to be a sales tax. Streaming is different. So I recognize there's value in having these conversations. Spanberger said that any decision along those lines would ultimately depend on the specific language of a proposal. Whether I would ever sign a bill is wholly dependent on what is actually in the bill and how it is outlined. Well, she said she was open to it in the first place. So that means she's seriously considering signing such a bill if it came across her desk. It was like taxed by 1,000,000 cuts, not 1,000 cuts, by 1,000,000 cuts. The ordinary person in Virginia, they're only going to be able to have a place to live, drive a car. Oh, wait a minute, you're taxed on both of those. Buy food, oh, wait a minute, you're taxed on that too. There's nothing you can avoid in life except for death and taxes. And that's all you're going to get out of living in Virginia. Death and taxes, because you're not going to have no money to do anything else. You know, the cool resorts like Colonial Williamsburg, Universal Studios. You got Yorktown. You got Norfolk. You have all kinds of places where the Revolutionary War. We're celebrating America 250 right now, right? Everywhere you go is taxed into oblivion, and people, the cost of being able to go out and enjoy yourself is going to be so high. People are going to stop doing all that, and these places are going to end up closing down. People will be unemployed. There's not going to be any sales tax revenue generated, and Virginia is going to lose everything. So hopefully it doesn't make it to her desk. But I would say in 2 years, change over that assembly, and hopefully the Supreme Court completely stays that referendum that passed 2 weeks ago, and then they don't reapportion the state's congressional delegates, right? But we got stuff like this happening all over the country. I mean, I know it's a weekday right now on the chat and stuff, but people, y'all got to really listen to this stuff, because if we close our eyes just for a second, you got these Democrats in these state legislatures that are going to tear our rights apart. And then it's going to cost millions of dollars to fight them in court just to get our rights back. And that's all they want us to do, is go broke challenging them in a court of law. Because you can Google it, how much it takes to argue a case before the Supreme Court. You would be pleasantly surprised on how much money it costs to argue a case before the Supreme Court. All right. As we say in politics, who here knows who John Ossoff is? I give you a couple of things. Does anyone want to chime in on that one? Where he's from, where he's serving from? Because John Ossoff is running for re-election. It's been 6 years since he's been in the Senate. John Ossoff is from Georgia, right? He's like the quiet senator. Nobody, people would say that Alex Padilla is the quiet guy. No, John Ossoff is. Nobody ever really hears about John Ossoff at all. But he received a $700,000 donation from an affiliated group that takes money from the SPLC. That's the Southern Poverty Law Center, which indicted early last week. And he won't say nothing about it. He wants to stay quiet. He doesn't want to tell people where his donations are coming from. They want to throw mud at Republicans for their donations. At least they're not getting money from hate groups, because I classified SPLC as a hate group. Federal prosecutors studying indictment of left-wing activist group for allegedly financial crimes is reverberating in the Georgia's 2026 Senate race, with Republicans targeting Senator John Ossoff with his past ties to the organization. The Department of Justice brought criminal charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center in April for allegedly defrauding its donors by secretly transferring money to extremist groups with the goal of infiltrating and monitoring their activities. We already know that part. Ossoff, the most vulnerable Senate Democrat running for re-election in 2026, is endorsed by the Law Center. Ossoff, the most vulnerable Senate Democrat running for re-election in 2026, is endorsed by the Law Center's 501c4 arm. The group contributed more than $700,000 to its campaign in 2020, according to the FEC filings. The Georgia Democrat has also praised the group's purported efforts to combat racism. Thank you for decades of work defending the civil rights in the United States, Ossoff said in a video celebrating the nonprofit group's 50th anniversary in 2021. I'm deeply concerned, like many of you, about the rising level of polarization, hatred, and mistrust in our society. Wow, I can't believe you're saying about the Democrat Party. We must commit to a path of love, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence if we are to flourish as a nation in the world. During that time, federal prosecutors allege that instead of combating extremism, the SPLC was providing financial support to organizations that spread it. Between 2014 and 2023, Alabama-based organization paid more than $3 million to informants belonging to these different racist groups. Let's see. I want to read the part about Ossoff, which is right here. The Republican National Committee hammered Ossoff's ties to the Law Center. If John Ossoff is too spineless to reject SPLC's endorsement and return their money, he's complicit in funding millions to violent extremist groups like the KKK. RNC spokeswoman Emma Hall said, anyone who doesn't condemn these indicted fraudsters is wrong for Georgia, plain and simple. Ossoff has not commented on the grand jury indictment. His campaign will not respond to multiple requests for comment. Ossoff is facing a crowded field of GOP challengers in November. Mike Collins, Buddy Collar, and Derek Dooley are vying to be the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate. And then President Trump has yet to intervene and endorse any of them. But I forgot who he wants. But so Ossoff has $31 million in a war chest, and GOP candidates have barely raised any money so far. But it's early. So Ossoff, this quiet guy, the most vulnerable member of the U.S. Senate up for re-election, isn't saying a word about the $700,000 donation he received by the SPLC. All right, and then to go along with that, I was talking about Mallory McElroy this morning, and then she was she used to live in California and moved to Michigan. I think she was intent to move into Michigan because she wanted to run for a public office in Michigan, but she lived in California. But at the time she moved into Michigan, evidently she was still registered to vote in California, and she voted in the California election while living in Michigan. It's totally illegal. This lady should drop out of the race right now. And to go along with that, she's erasing her past, like with a cloth, right? Like Hillary Clinton, right? Um, because this last weekend or so, she deleted over 6,000 X's or tweets, whatever you want to call them. 6,000. I mean, I guess she stays on the tweet thing all day long because it didn't say her putting a heart by it, or it actually deleted 6,000 tweets. And I know we're running out of time, so let's see. I'm going to hold off on saying too much more about her, okay? But what I want to talk about really quick, I'm going to hold off on this, is how the IRS weaponized the Johnson Amendment to target conservative pastors and ignoring liberals, right? So, a new report released Thursday by a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias reveals that investigators describe as a stark contrast and a systemic double standard how Biden Internal Revenue Service policed American churches. The Biden IRS opened multiple investigations in Christian churches focused on the content of their sermons. You can't do that no more. President Trump won't allow. The IRS asked these churches for detailed information about the operations, not just alleged violations. But during the same time, when other houses of worship gave sermons that reflected different scriptural interpretations on cultural issues or prayed for Democratic candidates, the Biden IRS appeared to take no action. The task force, which was established by President Trump in an executive order last year, reviewed internal administration discussions, case files, and prosecutorial decisions by the Biden administration across 17 federal agencies. Beyond the IRS's apparent targeting of conservative Christian churches, the task force concluded that the Biden administration's prosecution strategy, internal policies, and practices demonstrated overall anti-Christian bias that permeated throughout a federal government during that period. No American should live in fear that the government will punish them for their faith, the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said, who chaired the task force. As our report lays out, the Biden administration's actions devastated the lives of many Christian Americans. The devastation ended with President Trump. The task force determined that the Biden administration used the Johnson Amendment, that's a 1954 provision added to the tax code, which prohibits 501c3 nonprofit organizations from endorsing or opposing political candidates, to probe churches or that hold traditional Christian teachings, arguing those positions amounted to political support for Republican candidates. Like I said, talk out of one side of your mouth and out of the other at the same time. That's what the Bidens were doing. Though the amendment, in theory, limits what pastors whose churches have a 501c3 nonprofit status can say in evaluating candidates running for political office, it has been only sporadically enforced according to the Justice Department. For example, the Obama administration, when 30 pastors instructed their congregations in 2008 on how to vote for the interpretation of Scripture, the IRS appeared to only have opened an investigation to one pastor. Even then, the IRS dropped the investigation and took no enforcement action. But the Biden administration was different. The Justice Department task force documented several investigations opened by the administration of Christian churches for possible violations of the Johnson Amendment. In 2024, the IRS informed New Way Church in Florida that it was reviewing the organization's compliance with the Johnson Amendment for hosting a candidate for a local school board race 2 years earlier. The candidate reportedly visited the church to address the congregation, talking about her faith and why she ran for office. The pastor reportedly also prayed for her. The IRS asked the church to provide information about the visit, including how many individuals were in attendance, for what purpose the candidate was invited, and whether the church participated in any other political events. After the church refused to answer the agency's questions under the advice of legal counsel, the IRS ultimately dismissed the investigation. Good move. Man, it just goes on and on. And this is crazy. I might continue this tomorrow too, because we are out of time. We are overtime, guys. Man, y'all never let me finish. And I still got more articles over here. I'm not even going to have to do any show prep for tomorrow morning except for the Iran stuff. All right. But the stuff about freedom of religion is important. This stuff should not have any impact on churches or nonprofits at all. If you see over and over the Democrat Party over and over and over allows people to come in and preach at their churches, and you have these conservative Christian churches that typically have Republicans that come to them. They tell them you cannot speak about this or this and this and this totally whatsoever. And it puts them at a disadvantage because these Democrat churches know exactly what to do and how to say it, and they get away with it. And then they pass the plate and raise millions of dollars. But the other churches, you got pastors that are afraid to even say the word Trump or say the word Bush or J.D. Vance or whatever, right? I mean, that's something that should really stroke fear in your heart about how churches are treated in our country. Remember, the Constitution is protect us from the government, not to protect the government from us. Okay, always remember that, right? So as we close in on this for the day, don't forget on the 12th of May we have the Coryell County Republican Party runoff, a meet and greet at Giovanni's on May 12th in Coppers Cove. All the candidates are invited from the runoffs from Coryell Commissioner race number 2, number 4, and the county judge. And it will be held in conjunction with the Coppers Cove Conservative Club. We have the location, and they're falling in on us. We're going to do this together, all right? You're welcome to come out, all right? So don't forget about that. The meeting that we had the other day was awesome. The one that was at the feed mill and stuff. We had several candidates that showed up. All the candidates except for Judge Miller. Roger Miller was the only one. I don't know why he didn't show up, but he didn't. It was his prerogative whether he wanted to show up or not. But we invited him to come anyway, right? The same thing for the one at the Four Cs, the Coppers Cove Conservative Club on the 12th of May. All 6 candidates are invited to show up at Giovanni's for the meet and greet. And local populace is to the room that we have can hold probably about 50 people in it, maybe, yeah, about 50 or 60 people. We would like to fill that up. They got good food there. You don't have to get food, but we usually do to help support the restaurant. All right. So I'm just going to sign off for the day. I got stuff I want to do and get all prepared for tomorrow and get my voice rested because I don't know what's up. I don't, you know what it is? I think it's sinuses. So, yeah, I can feel it in my throat. All right. So thank y'all for tuning in this afternoon. I'll start doing some Rumble premiums tomorrow, talk about some cool politics stuff. All right. So thank y'all very much for tuning in. This is James Pearson, JP8 Report. I'll catch you on the flip side. I'm out.